Welcome to the farm.
I did in fact order the wrong carburetor kit, so I got a new kit. Let's get it open and see if we can't get this thing to hold fuel inside of it and not run it all over the place. So unfortunately the carburetor's still overflowing and leaking, so I'm not even going to try to turn it over and start it or anything like that. We're going to see if we can't work on this air cleaner. The air cleaner has a big crack in it down here in the bowl. And from what I've done research-wise, the air cleaner itself is a pretty easy part to find used. However, the bowls are a lot more difficult because they rust out. Just going to soak this air cleaner in penetrating oil probably for the week, and we'll try next weekend and see if we can't get this thing off. Welcome to the farm. I'm Justin, and today we're going to get back on this nightmare of an air cleaner. Let's get started. Alright, well, we got some good news and we got some bad news. The good news is I got it apart. Fortunately, the bad news kind of outweighs the good news. I had to really kind of dent this all up to get a screwdriver in to pound this thing off, and I got it off. I'm hoping I can straighten all this back out. The other bad news is this thing is full of dirt and debris, and the inside it's pretty rusted out. This piece that's in here is actually supposed to come out as well, and I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to get that out. And the bowl itself has more holes in it than I thought. It's got obviously the big crack, which dented more trying to get this off. This thing got pretty dented up trying to get it off, and there's some other small little holes around that I found. So I don't know if we're going to be able to salvage this or not. And like I said, the inside of this thing is full of stuff. Well, it's been about 12 months now since I got that air cleaner apart. I've been kind of looking into seeing if I can find one, looking into parts tractors and stuff. I just haven't come across anything I'm wanting to pull the trigger on quite yet. So still looking for parts on that, but I want to go ahead and get back on this tractor and see if we can't get this carburetor figured out, come up with a good solution for that. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to check is the main jet here on the bottom of the bowl, because what ended up happening when I was putting it together originally, the original needle, I threaded in too far, too tight, and I stripped the threads off so it won't thread in anymore. Hopefully that focused and you can see it. So the new one has the threads, but you can probably tell the shape is a little bit different. So my plan with these is to line up where the threads start on the points then I can file the new one down to the same height and then reprofile it, hopefully to get a better seal inside the carburetor itself. So I'm just taking some real fine 320 grit sandpaper and just working the tip down. So that took about 10 minutes of sanding and filing, but I think I got that profile a lot closer to the original. So hopefully that will work a lot better. The next thing I want to do is separate the two halves of the carb and try to set my float. I didn't do that when I rebuilt it, and I'm wondering if my float is not set to the correct depth so that it's overfilling the bowl and spilling out before the needle actually seats and shuts the fuel off. So to find the correct float height, according to my rebuild directions here, I'm supposed to check the position of the float to measure 1 and 5/32 plus or minus 3/64 from casting to furthest point of the float. Bend float arm next to float to obtain this measurement. Do not bend float hinge. So when I take my little gauge here, I'm not right on the casting. I got a little bit with the gasket, but I am right at I'm right at about 1 and 8/32. So I think I just want to bend that down just a little bit. So that's pretty close to 1 and 5/32. That's pretty close to 1 and 5/32 too. I could probably go just a hair more. Alright, so that's probably pretty good there. I did bend it down a little bit more. Hopefully by combining these two things, I'm going to stop my overfueling issue. All our carburetors all hooked back up. Let's go ahead, open up the fuel, see what happens. Alright, we got fuel down to the carburetor. And as of right now, it's not leaking out of the intake. So no more did I turn around and walk away, then it started leaking out of the bottom of the carb here. So obviously something's overflowing and hitting that point and then flowing back out. I'm going to shut the fuel off, drain this carburetor back out, and I think I'm just going to have to order a replacement carburetor because I want to get this thing running. So this kind of went how I thought it was going to go. I didn't think my 2 little tweaks were going to take care of the carburetor. I got really hopeful when we first turned that fuel on and I had fuel in the bowl and it wasn't leaking out of the carburetor. I got really excited that we may have solved the problem. And then I turned my back, walked away for about 5 seconds, and heard the fuel leaking out of the carb. So that really was a disappointment. I think what I'm going to have to do is just order a replacement carb. It's not going to be original distractor, but hopefully it will solve my fuel issues and get us one step closer to getting this thing started. I got some big projects coming up this spring and summer, and I'd like to be able to move this thing around under its own power instead of having to drag it out of the way and back in and wherever else I need to move it. I don't know if we'll be able to get it started with just a carburetor. I think I still have some weak spark issues, so I may not even start with the new carburetor, but we won't know until we try. So hopefully you guys found this interesting and entertaining. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.